Hi, I'm James Shillinglaw. I'm here with a very familiar face if you've been watching us. It's Mark Conroy, who's the managing director, North America for Silversea Cruises. And we wanted to talk to Mark about a bunch of things going on with Silversea. We've been doing a lot of coverage of Silversea recently, but there's still some more to come. Lots of stuff going on. And we're going to talk to Mark about all the things all about Silversea on Insider Travel Report. Now, first of all, Mark, how are you and where are you? I see you're in Antarctica right now. I guess there's no COVID there, right?
No. Actually, this is a shot from last year. We had, last year, 2019, we had the Whisper, our world cruise ship in Antarctica, along with the Cloud. And this is a shot of from the Cloud to the Whisper. But I think it's great because somebody captured it and said these penguins are saying, "Oh no, we're missing formal night." But it is great. And by the way, the World Cruise, one of the things that's really going to help us out is that World Cruise in 22 actually is going to go to Antarctica again. And that I think is a clearer path to being able to operate it than should we have, for instance, scheduled to go to Australia and New Zealand, which appears it's going to be closed for the near future.
Well, we're gonna talk about World Cruise in a second about that because it is obviously, fortunately, there seem to be a lot of destinations in the world, so you can make those switches. But we'll see. But now, obviously, we have talked a lot. We have done a lot of coverage about your new Silver Moon and the new Salt culinary program. My colleague Alan Fine was on board for the introduction of all those. But we wanted to ask you about some other things now. First of all, you have kind of you're really taking your all-inclusive concept even further. I think you have some new product, door-to-door service for customers. Can you explain a little bit about this and how it works?
Sure. We were talking to people about the ease of planning their trip with our travel advisor partners, and they were saying, one of the challenges is that getting to the airport and everything on time. So we've created a relationship with a company called Black Lane, and they're kind of an interesting. It's kind of like a Uber for limousine services. Okay. So what happens is we'll have a special code that we'll give the clients, and that they or their travel advisor, and they in turn can reach out to them, give them their flight information, and organize their transfer up to within 50 miles of the closest airport. And if it's further than 50 miles, they can pay a supplement. And so this is just one other way to make it. The trip is seamless, and it's the same way coming home. And by the way, if people have their favorite their tour operator, their famous limo driver, or their Uncle Jerry, or their Uncle Jerry who drives them, they'll get a non-use credit. So I think it's a real win-win. The whole idea was to make this when you're a destination-focused company, being inclusive is very important, which is one of the reasons we've added the shore excursions. We've done this program. We've included air. We've got great business class air upgrades at priced very well. So the whole idea is that it's a fairly good sized number when you write that check to take the cruise. But the great news, when you get off the ship, your bill is pretty small because we include everything but basically gift shop, some very exclusive private car driver, things like that for tours, and the casino and the spa. So
you don't include my losses for the casino. I'm really
we haven't figured out how to make the economics on that work. Although most customers in our segment they're gamblers, but they gamble more for fun, and it's a couple $100 a night or something like that. It's not like they're trying to win the ship,
Got it. Now let's talk. So that's great. So it's even more inclusiveness from Silversea. Now let's talk about the fleet deployment this year. And you've been operating since late June, correct?
Actually, mid-June. Actually, we started with Moon on the 19th, and then the Silver Origin and the Galapagos on the 20th. Then we started in July, I can't think of the date, with the Silver Muse in Alaska, out of Seattle. And then we started with the Silver Shadow in Iceland. And I think and then, by the way, the Silver Spirit started this last weekend. So we've got 5 ships in operation, and we've run over 20 cruises. And the great news is our protocols seem to be holding up very well. First of all, we require vaccination because that's what we promised our guests. And we're also requiring testing. So we've actually caught a couple of folks who wanted to board that unfortunately tested positive. Now, all but one of those actually got retested, and it was a false positive. Because that's the other challenge you all face in this world. But we haven't had, knock wood, a single major case. So we're pretty excited, and we think that our COVID process and protocols work. The thing, James, that we can't guarantee that people will not get COVID on their travels to the ship or even aboard the ship. But what we can guarantee people is that we'll keep them as safe as they would be at home. Because if you think about it, when you're on the ship, you know that everyone around you has been vaccinated, because that's the requirement, crew and guests. Everyone's wearing masks where appropriate, social distancing where appropriate. We've got great protocols. So even the tour operators that we're using in these ports of call, they have to agree to have their staff vaccinated and their cars sanitized and their buses sanitized. And they've also agreed not to take you to places like the Sistine Chapel when there's 10,000 people there. So bring you there before or after it opens and closes. So no, and I can't say the same thing. My favorite restaurant, I don't know if my waiter's been vaccinated or the cook has been vaccinated, or
probably not actually where you are, yeah.
And in church even. So I think I think what's happening is the world's starting to figure out that if we're ever going to get back to something called normal, I can't remember what that is anymore, that people are going to have to figure out how to live with this, but live properly and carefully. And then I think the other frustrating thing, and we were talking about it before we started, is making decisions based on science and not on politics. It's so frustrating to have these countries open and close, and you can fly to South Africa easily, but they won't let a cruise ship in, even a small cruise ship like ours. So there's all kinds of things in the air about that are just drive you a little bit crazy, because it's a knee-jerk reaction, and everybody's running for office who's making decisions.
Yeah, I agree. I totally, and I've just experienced that. We were talking earlier about the Netherlands putting in well beyond the EU recommendation, which turned out to be just that they should only allow vaccinated people in, and the non-vaccinated don't worry about. But Netherlands went the extra step, and they're going after both vax and non-vaccinated.
But the weird thing is you can pass through their airports. So once you're in the country, and by the way, if you happen to be staying in France and drive over the Netherlands border, is anybody going to know? I mean, it's like, it just doesn't make any sense at all. But that's government.
Yeah, it's a strange world. So right now you're in Greece, you're in Iceland, you're in Alaska, you're in the Galapagos. Where else?
British Isles with the Spirit.
Oh, with the British Isles with the Spirit. And are you going anywhere else this year?
Yeah, what we're hoping now. The Spirit had a combination of British Isles and Northern European cruises, and we've had to modify those itineraries just in the last 3 or 4 days before it operated, because of the process of going between the EU and the UK became so complicated and so difficult. We were afraid that it would end up forcing us to somehow not be able to run the cruise. So we changed the first 2 cruises into circling the UK. So they're calling in Scotland and Wales and all kinds of ports in England, but not in Ireland as we originally had planned to, and not in France and Germany as we originally planned to.
Right.
But we're seeing a lot of people being pretty understanding about it, and most of them just want to get away and start experience life again and that real great service that we provide. So that's the one. Then we have we got some great news this week, actually, or last week. Chile has agreed to allow us and guaranteed that they'll allow us to operate Antarctica. Wow. And so what we're going to do is we're going to switch from Ushuaia, at least some of the fleet, and we're going to operate out of either Port Williams or Punta Arenas down to Antarctica and back. So that means the Antarctic season is going to begin. So we'll have the wind, which will come just coming out of dry dock after being changed. We'll have the Cloud and then the Explorer all in Antarctica in November, early December. And Explorer's got these really amazing fly cruise programs. We call it
I remember that was announced way back when. I seem to recall at the International Luxury Travel Market you announced the fly, so you could fly to Antarctica really to pick up the ship, right?
It's a great trip, because what happens is, Antarctica, first of all, you have to cross the Drake, but, on the bigger ships, they're faster. They can go 20 some knots, so they can cross the Drake in about 36 hours, where it takes the Explorer almost 42 or 44. Right. But the other side of it is that for somebody who doesn't have the time, you could actually, because typically, you have to fly down to Chile, then overnight in Chile, then fly down the next day on a charter flight, do the cruise 10 or 11 days, because you have to 2 days there and 2 days back. And what this does is it allows you to take that basically that 12-day, 13-day trip and turn it into a 7-day trip efficiently. So, and they've sold very well. Interesting enough, when you look at the pricing, it's about the same as the longer, the 10-day cruise.
Right.
But it's because of the fact that we have 2 charter airplanes that fly between Punta Arenas and Antarctica. And the cool thing is you get to land on a volcanic runway in Antarctica and walk right from your aircraft right to the ship, right to the dock where the ship is anchored.
That's pretty impressive. I think I got to try that one out. That sounds like it's always, Antarctica is a major commitment of time normally, but this sounds like you've shortened it to 7 days.
Yeah, basically. And so maybe 9, including your flight down, your flight back from the U.S. So, no, it's going well. We got only one departure that's got some space on it. So, and it was because we had a group from China, actually, that canceled off of it. So I think it's either the Christmas cruise or the cruise just before Christmas got a little bit of space.
Okay, well, you and I could charter that one and just have a great party done. There you go. Now, you already announced all your deployments for 22 and 23, I think, almost, right?
Yeah, pretty much. We've got a couple ships in limbo. Right now, the Dawn is delivered in November. She's about 3 weeks late. So she's going to be delivered, and then she does a transatlantic crossing. And then she does 2 cruises that are, I think, the most interesting version of the Panama Canal cruise, because it goes through the canal, but instead of turning right and going up to California, it turns left and goes down to Peru. And we call in Callao for Lima. So you can kind of put some bucket list places together, including a trip through the Panama Canal, plus the fact that you can do Machu Picchu as a pre or post cruise package. And then
that sounds like a great cruise. That's all these places I haven't certainly gone to, and maybe a lot of other people haven't.
And we're also overnighting in the Panama Canal at Port Amador. So that's a place that most people haven't spent a lot of time in Panama, and it's an amazing place. So we're pretty excited. And then it does a 65-day around South America cruise for the winter before she heads back to Europe. So again, we've got agreements from Peru and Chile. We're hoping that Argentina kind of gets their act together for at least ship tourism, and then Brazil's the wild card because of the fact that Brazil is. But 6 or 7 cruise lines have announced that they're going to run their seasonal program down there. So we think, and the Brazilians have encouraged us to keep it in the schedule and run that cruise. For some reason, should Brazil not reopen, we can actually spin back around and sail through Antarctica on the way home and come back up the West Coast if we need to. So we're really hoping to run that long cruise because it's doing quite well. And then the other question mark is our Expedition World Cruise. And it's heavily booked. It's running close to 90% still after everything that's going on. The question is, will some of these smaller ports be open by the time we get there to take us? So.
Well, we have the issue of if you're heading to Tahiti now, it's closed, it's open, it's a lot of things going on. I think it's going to reopen again. I think it'll reopen by the time you end up getting there.
Yeah, and what we've done basically is we've asked people to hang in there and not cancel, and we've waived final payment requirements and penalties to the end of October. So, and probably we'll waive them till the end of November. I like to tell people we're in the ship business, the cruise business, not in the cruise cancellation business. So we want people, if you really want to go, to hang in there with us. And of course, we're always more generous if we cancel the cruise than if they cancel the cruise. So, and it's held up pretty well. The customers, you could just, the sense that we get from the people we talk to on board, they're just thrilled to be on board for three reasons. Number one, they're free. They're free from being locked down at different levels. In New York, it's one way, in Florida, it's another way, but they're free to travel, which they're enjoying. They're nothing's crowded. The major sites aren't crowded. The airports aren't particularly crowded. They love to get on the ship and get this great service. And the crew, I think, is just so thrilled to be back to work that they always provided amazing services. They're our secret sauce. To give you an idea how much our guests love our crew, some of our guests put a GoFundMe page together for the crew members that were struggling, and they raised $250,000 on just for the crew members. That's amazing. And of course, we matched it, which was helpful too. But they're so excited to be there and excited to be able to travel and have a great time still, but still be safe. And that's really the issue.
No, absolutely, and that's amazing. I know your crew is indeed awesome. I've been on a number of Silversea cruises, and in fact, before the pandemic, I was with you in the Caribbean,
Yeah.
just 2 months before the pandemic started. So they are amazing. Now, you did mention all these world cruises. I know this is a subject dear to your heart because you have a lot of people doing world cruises. So the expedition world cruise, you're going to have to look and tinker with that possibly, and then is the South America, is that considered a world cruise too?
Yeah, we consider it a grand voyage. So
Okay.
it looks pretty solid. It's not a brand new ship, but the Dawn, and we're excited because not only will Dawn have the salt program, but it'll also have the new spa program, which is even
Right.
maybe not just. I like the food thing more than the exercise thing. So I'm more excited about the salt project, but they also have our new spa concept, which should be very exciting. And then the World Cruise, we've got, as I said before, it's going down in South America again, and then down to Antarctica. So we've got the ship cleared till there, and the one holdout port right now is South Africa, which
Right.
we need to call at because but if you think about it, it's 14 days between Antarctica and South Africa, and people. It's like putting people in quarantine, right? And so we've got some people over there this week negotiating with the South African government to kind of think about the science and help allow us to come in. And if we can get South Africa, then the itinerary is very feasible to run for the rest.
Yeah,
We may have port change, but
if they don't want you, just sail around the tip of South Africa and keep on going. Why not?
well, that's what the Muse took all the crew home from Europe, and that's how they did it. They stopped there for fuel and water and provisions, and then continued to sail onward. So that ship's been at sea more days this last 2 years than it has in its entire life. So.
That's amazing. Now, anything more on world cruises you want to mention?
Well, we've got 23. It took off like a rocket. In just timing what it is, we're going to start it in Cape Town, which I was a bit skeptical of, but we made a special deal with Qantas for dedicated flights, and that looks like it's worked out very well. Plus, by then, people who have not been to Australia or New Zealand for 3 years, I guess. So,
Right.
so that's sold out, and then 24 launched, which is a Circle. Basically, it's a world cruise, but it's a Circle Pacific cruise, kind of a Ring of Fire cruise, and that's sold out. And I think, or if not sold out, almost sold out. And what's exciting about that, obviously, is towards the end of it, we're going to the Russian Far East and actually Alaska. And it's amazing how many World Cruise passengers, because of the time when the World Cruise runs, they have them into Alaska. And what we did is we're starting it 3 weeks later in January, so that when we get to Alaska, it's late in May instead of early in May, which should give them a reasonable experience in Alaska and the Russian Far East.
No, sounds like another cool world cruise. Excellent. Now, I do understand you have a new, I call it TV spot, commercial, that you're launching. Sort of set this up for us. What is this?
Well, we're growing so fast. In 2019, we carried about over 50,000 guests, which isn't a small company, but relatively small in comparison to our sister companies. For instance, some of them carry that in a couple of weeks. But
Right.
But for a luxury company, and by the end of 23, we'll be over 100,000 guests. So we're over doubling our size. And in order to do that, at any given time, about 60% of the people on a Silversea ship are repeaters. So that means every year we have to find 40% new customers. So we really have to really help find new to cruising. And it's not so much new to cruising, by the way, James, it's new to luxury.
Right.
Because what ends up happening is that about 85% of the customers that sail with us have sailed before, but on a contemporary or premium ship. And they like it because, 90% of the people, no matter what cruise they go on, they enjoy it. And so the great news for that is all the advisor has to do is convince the guest of what's the difference is from being on a 100, 300, or 500 passenger ship versus a 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 passenger ship.
Right.
And that should be pretty straightforward. And I call it a virtuous circle because of the way our commission structure and the price is built into the price, the customer gets a luxury cruise for pretty much what he would have paid, a little bit more expensive all in, including his post-cruise bill, which is usually almost as big as his pre-cruise bill. So he gets a luxury cruise he didn't know he could afford or didn't want to spend the money to do so. The advisor makes twice as much money on the first booking, and and we get a new to brand customer, and once somebody sells with us, they do come back, as can seen by our repeat factor. So it's kind of and then when they come back again, it becomes somewhat of an annuity, because we can fill people's bucket list. We go to, I guarantee you, if some customer comes to me and says, I've been everywhere you've been to, I guarantee you I can name 6 places. Well, I can't name them. I'd have to look them up, because we go to 900 destinations. But I can always say, we go here. Have you ever been to the Russian Far East? Or have you ever been to Greenland? Or have you ever been up the Amazon River and deep in the Amazon River on the southern side of it? So there's so many places we go to that people haven't been before, or even simple places that are amazing, like the Galapagos with the new Silver Origin.
No, and that's an amazing cruise too, I know. But let's take a look at this commercial right now, and then we'll talk about it afterwards.
Okay, but everybody has to be quiet, because it's not really supposed to be seen until it runs. So just
that's right. You're gonna get in trouble for showing us. But let's take a look anyway. All right.
Okay, great. Thanks, James.
To all of you who have been yearning to travel, I'd like to say just one thing. It's time. It's time to go to the edges of the world and see that there is no end to discovery. It's time to go out and seek those hidden treasures. The most precious things on earth aren't things at all. The world is reopening. Open up to the world.
Mr. McCurry, we're about to leave port.
Would you please have this sent for me before we go?
Certainly, sir.
Once it's not embargoed, they'll basically take it and put a trailer on it themselves, and maybe run it in their local cable network. So it's really a brand to get people to understand more about what the Silversea brand is. So it's not a hard sell, but as an advisor, if you can follow up and say, hey, listen, I saw this commercial and I thought of you, or actually it's a video. So you say, I saw this video and I thought of you, and send it to 10 people. I guarantee you're going to get one call. It's a good reason to email or call out to one of your clients. And, I don't know how many times I've said it. I'll say it till my hair falls out. But if you're not talking to your clients, I guarantee you somebody else is, because your clients are somebody else's prospects. So it's a great way to stay in touch without being too aggressive, and it's a beautiful piece of photography, in my humble opinion. That's where we're really great.
It is a gorgeous spot, a gorgeous video, and I do think I absolutely agree that if you out there, all of our advisor viewers, send that out to their clients, you're going to get some bookings.
Great.
Now, anything else in terms of new product enhancements? Anything else you want to highlight for our travel advisor?
Well, we've got a lot of new itineraries. I talked about Antarctica. We've got some new shorter programs in the Arctic also. Again, kind of on the same way as we've done the Antarctic bridge, running them as short as 6, 7, 8 days.
Right.
We've got an amazing cruise going up this, as I said before, up the Amazon with a lot of exploration on the expedition side. In the tributaries and the small tributaries of the Amazon. We're stopping in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia on a couple calls. We chartered the ship for the Saudi government for 2 months and ran it during August and again last year, and didn't have a case. So again, working in conjunction with them, screening people properly, we had a great experience. So we've got a great relationship with the Saudi government, and they're opening some ports that they make Petra look like an amusement park compared, because these are sites that are kind of somewhat created by the same civilization that did Petra, but were never really looked at because it wasn't in the Saudi culture, So remember Saudi Arabia, when the Saud family took over, I think there were 6 million Saudis, and now there's 45 million. So these are areas that they're developing. Plus, some of the most beautiful beaches in the world on top of that. So those Red Sea ports should be interesting. And of course, Jeddah itself has grown into a major city, and it's the port for Mecca now. Non-Muslims can't go to Mecca, but there's a lot of interesting things to do in the area. Plus, Jordan is still one of those great destinations. Egypt is coming roaring back. Israel is is strong. It's kind of stayed strong, except for COVID. It's stayed strong throughout the whole period of time. And then I'm excited about some of the stuff like we're doing in the Panama Canal down to Peru, and also just Caribbean, because I think some people just want to get away. You know, we've been running these cruises, and people ask me, well, are you finally making some money? And I said, probably no. Hopefully we're breaking even on them. But, you know, there's three important things that we got to do by doing this. Number one was we got to test our safety protocols, which was critical for our future success. It was a bit of a proof of life, you know, like in a kidnapping where you have to prove that the person's been kidnapped. We've proven that we can operate these cruises safely. So that isn't so important for the cruises now, but it's really important to get people to be patient and stay with us into 22 and start even planning into 23 and 24. And then last but not least, we've put over almost 2,000 crew members back to work who had been sitting at home looking for something to do and almost 2 years. So, and that's been the thing that makes me feel so good because the reaction between the guest and the crew and the level of service that's being provided right now is just off the charts. On a scale of 1 to 10, the ships are all scoring 9.95, 9.92. The only real knock we get is the internet. Our internet process was kind of frozen. Our Wi-Fi contact was kind of frozen during the pandemic because we didn't work on it as a priority. And now people who have been living on the internet for the last 2 years are very impatient about internet speed. So the only real criticism we're getting is the internet speed. But I think basically that in all realm of other things happening is major, and we're working on it. But I think the fact that they're having an amazing time and they're able to go home and tell stories. You know, I like to say as a travel advisor, you can send your customer to the moon, or your customer when he gets home and said, I just came back from the moon. So, and he doesn't have to spend $250,000 on a jet to do it. So,
well, hopefully you get your internet. Maybe you turn to your bigger sister there, Royal Caribbean, which always boasts they have the best internet at sea. So maybe they can give you a hand in speeding that up, but we'll see what happens. But that is crucial, unfortunately. It is kind of odd when we think about it. But now we've all been a year with internet, and we can't live without it. And it's also good marketing for you, obviously, if they can start putting up stuff when they're on their cruise. But we'll see.
You know, James, one other point, because a lot of, I get advisors saying all the means, I wish I had Silversea clients, or when I worked at Regent, I wish I had Regent. They all do, they just don't know it. And you know, we've got an agent portal on our website that they should be visiting. We've got some amazing tools. I actually have an agent partner friend who does, 7 figures with us. And every proposal she sends out, once a customer calls and either asks for a quote or takes an option, she actually goes into our portal and makes a personalized brochure, electronic brochure for that guest, and emails it to them. And wow. her close rate beats everybody.
And that's all available with those tools that are on your
website. And I can almost use them. So it means that you could be a Luddite and still be able to use it. So it takes about 5-10 minutes. But make sure that if you're a travel advisor that you talk to your sales representative and go on the portal. By the way, it was down last week, but it's up and running now. To learn how to use that, it really will help you promote our product and tell the story more clearly than you otherwise possibly can. So
now just for the sake of that, where is this portal? What's the URL?
If you go on our website and you go down to the lower right-hand corner of the front page, it says our partners portal. It's Travel Professionals Portal, I think it's named, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so that's great that you have this amazing portal where you can get all this great marketing information. You got some amazing cruises, whether it's world cruises, whether it's incredible itineraries, new ships. 2 new ships this year and more to come.
Actually 3 because
3 with Origin. I forgot about your Galapagos ship. So there's a lot going on, and great that you have really gotten through this without really any cases of COVID. And
James, I have to say that one of the great things that's helped us is being part of Royal Caribbean. There were a lot of customers that were skeptical of what that would mean, us being acquired by a big company like Royal. But, particularly through this pandemic, they've done amazing. First of all, I think they've led the industry in thinking. And I mean that in a way, thinking, approaching the COVID on a scientific basis. The second issue is before the COVID, they funded us to not only order these new ships, but 2 more. So we'll have 2 more ships, and probably now one in into 23 and one in 24, but 2 more ships. So that will end up going to 150,000 customers. And then they've allowed us to basically fund and pay things. We've issued over $300 million since COVID began in refunds, and we paid. I'm trying to think. It's almost $50 million in commission for cruises that did not operate. Because if we were fully paid and we canceled the cruise, then we protected the agent's commission. So we've done that. We had bonus commissions, savings, and Richard has led the way. So he's allowed us to look, instead of worrying about the short term, which obviously we all worry about, but focusing on the fact that our travel partners are more important to us than ever before, and that we had to support them, and hopefully that'll pay us back in spades once we're up fully operating.
Yeah, well, again, Richard Fain, who's chairman of Royal Caribbean Group, was actually recognized by ASTA, and really Royal Caribbean Group as a whole has done an amazing job of supporting the trade in the past year, both with those, on commissions, on refunds, and of course, even on loans. So it's just, they've done an awesome job, and you're part of that group now. You're fully, you're really.
Thank God.
Thank goodness, absolutely. Yeah. Well, Mark, I want to thank you for taking the time to update us. It's always great to see you. I saw you out at Virtuoso, and I'm sure I'll see you soon somewhere heading out. And again, thank you for updating me on us on all these wonderful things happening with Silversea. And I do hope those penguins there get to their formal night. They look like a little hungry. I don't know.
There you go. Listen, James, thanks as always for the opportunity. You're a real pillar in support for our travel advisors, and you're really what we as suppliers and our travel advisors need to make sure the information gets to the right people at the right time with the right message. Thank you.
Well, thank you. And I'm James Shillinglaw, and this is Insider Travel Report.